Hey there, my fellow author. I'm Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer, an old soul kind of writer living my dream as a full-time author and authorpreneur. But I didn't start out living a confident, creative lifestyle. I struggled with the fears and the mental and emotional barriers that so often plague writers at all stages of their author career. But the truth is that with the right knowledge, tools, and training, you can overcome those barriers. I'm here to teach you how I've developed a lifestyle that's allowed me to publish 19 books and counting. Each week, as you tune into the Confident Fiction Author podcast, you'll get clarity on the steps you need to take to advance your writing career. Whether it's developing your ideal writing routine, tackling new skills like dictating your fiction, or overcoming the obstacles life throws your way, this podcast will help you live a more confident, creative lifestyle. Let's get started. Hey there, my friend, and welcome to this episode of the Confident Fiction Author podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer, and today we are going to be talking about dictation, specifically how dictation is not about speed. It's about building a sustainable fiction writing career. You will be hearing me talk about dictation over the next few episodes because I do have my highly anticipated dictation bootcamp coming up. It kicks off October 14th. I'll tell you more about that here in just a bit, but let's just dive into the idea of dictation, especially if this is really the first time you've encountered the idea of dictating your fiction. So actually speaking your words instead of typing them. I know a lot of authors, when you hear about an author who's dictating and they're cranking out, 10,000 words in a day, they're writing 5,000 words an hour, and you're like, yeah, that's not me. I'm not about writing faster. Like, this is an art, this is a craft, and I just want to go at my pace, and it's really not about writing faster. I will be honest, the idea of using dictation to write faster is what drew me initially to dictation. But what I learned was it's not just a hack for writing faster and for those authors who are cranking out those thousands of words a day. What I found out and what I want to share with you is that it's not just about speed. It is truly about building a sustainable fiction writing career that you can enjoy for years to come. So in today's episode, I'm going to share how I went from epic failure at dictation to it becoming my key to building that sustainable fiction writing career. And I'm going to share how you can start moving your stories forward in a whole new way. Let's get into it. Back in 2013, I had been into my fiction writing journey for a few years. I had started in 2009, and I was really on the hunt for how can I build a sustainable fiction writing career. And I started hearing about authors who were dictating their fiction. They were using Dragon Dictation to speak their words instead of being tied to a keyboard and having to pound out all of the words that way. And they were hitting high word counts. And I was like, that sounds incredible. Like, that sounds like the kind of speeds that I want to hit with my fiction writing. And so I dove into it when I got my first smartphone in 2013. I downloaded a trial version of Dragon Anywhere and wrote out a few sentences of fiction, and I announced it on Facebook, and I was like, this could be epic. And it was. It was an epic failure. I could not get my words of fiction to flow out of my mouth as natural as typing. And so I thought, well, my brain just doesn't work that way, right? Like, you're either gifted to be able to speak your fiction or you're not. And I was just, unfortunately, one of those people whose brain just did not work that way. So I set it aside quietly. You know how you let a post just kind of quietly die off and like you didn't actually post that and just ignored it. So I let that fade away. But I kept coming back to dictation because I would hear about authors who were dictating while out taking a walk and dictating while loading groceries in their car and just how mobile they were. And I realized that dictation wasn't just about speed, being able to double my writing speed or something. I could actually be able to write fiction while being healthier, while not being chained to my desk, hunched over a computer, wearing my wrist out. And so that's when I realized it wasn't just this speed hack to be able to write faster and write more words in a day. It was really a career strategy. And so I want to share 3 ways that dictation can be a sustainable fiction writing career strategy for you as well. So the first one is dictation does protect your body, not only from repetitive strain. So we talk a lot about that with authors, and I know so many who are coming to dictation because they're having to have surgery on their wrist and they're having back issues. They're having blood clots. I just heard what my former cover design artist who had a 10-inch blood clot in his leg, and I'm just like, it's all this sitting. We have to be so protective of our bodies if we want to build that sustainable fiction writing career. And when we're tied to our desk, whether you're writing 500 words or 5,000 words a day or 10,000 words, all of that sitting and typing is taking its toll on your body, especially as the years stack up. And I know there was a thing for a while, and a lot of authors still do it, where we have treadmill desk. I got one in 2020, and I absolutely love it. I use it all the time to be able to walk and work at the same time. Yet still, even when we're walking and typing, we're still using those wrists, we're still using our shoulders and our neck, and still causing those issues with our bodies. And that's if you have a treadmill desk, which many authors either don't have the space or the budget for, but it is so important that we get moving and that we just relieve that pressure off of our bodies and that strain, that repetitive strain of typing out all of those words. Because the truth is, when writing hurts your body, you are on borrowed time. And so while I came into dictation, I did finally move past my blocks and the myth that my brain doesn't work that way. Once I got past that and I trained myself to do dictation, yes, I doubled my writing speed. I went from writing about 1,500 words an hour of fiction to writing 3,000 words an hour on average. And that's not speaking fast. That's just speaking at a slow pace and getting my story worlds created. But I still double my writing speed. And that's fantastic. But more so, it has enabled me to not spend all of those hours, hundreds of thousands of words now that I've dictated of fiction that I was able to do without being hunched over my keyboard and causing that strain on my wrist. I really can't imagine now. I'm about to turn 40, y'all, so I'll be 40 on September the 27th, and I can't imagine the condition that my body and my wrist especially would be in now if I had spent the past 5 years typing all of those words, the 11 books that I've dictated versus speaking them. And I'm just so, so grateful that I made that transition, and that's why I'm sharing it with you today. So whether or not you're looking at writing faster and being able to crank out 10,000 words a day, which by the way, I don't do, but if you're not looking toward that, look to your health, whether it's preventative or maybe you're in that condition that you can't continue typing and you're wondering, how are you going to be able to be an author if you can't physically type your words? And dictation is the solution for you. The other way that dictation really helps you build that sustainable writing career is it keeps your creativity flowing anywhere, anytime. The first scene of fiction that I ever dictated, like an entire scene, not just a few words or my morning pages or just some random brain dumping and all, which is how I trained myself to do dictation. This was my first scene of fiction that I actually dictated. And what happened was I had an appointment and I needed to leave in about 20 minutes, but I had dirty dishes in the sink. So I was like, okay, I'll do those right quick before I head out the door. As soon as I crossed the threshold into the kitchen, this backstory scene just downloaded into my brain. And it was a backstory scene for the novel that I was working on. And I was just in a really hard spot with this novel, honestly. I had already written 27,000 words and I was scrapping it and going back to zero. And so it was a bit overwhelming. I was already kind of in a discouraged place with it. And this scene, this backstory scene that was going to be a key part of restarting that book, it just downloaded in my brain. And I almost panicked because I was like, oh no, I've got to leave in 20 minutes. I've got dirty dishes in the sink. And I had a choice. I could leave the dishes and go to my computer and capture a few words, like capture just some notes on what that scene would look like. But I knew even doing that, I was like, there's no way, because I knew there was no way I could type it because of my experience. I knew it would take me about an hour to capture that scene. So I absolutely did not have enough time. And my best hope was just being able to capture a few notes that would hopefully spark my imagination and my memory enough to capture that full scene when I got back home. And let me just ask you, have you ever had that scene, that perfect scene in mind? You got the opening sentence, dialogue, the final sentence, like it has the punch you want, it has the tone, it's everything is there. And you're like, I'll remember that. I'll remember that when I get home or when I have time to get to my keyboard. And I can almost feel you nodding your head right now and saying, yep, had that. And then when I finally got to my keyboard, it was gone. Like I have virtually nothing of it, none of the words, none of the sentences that I wanted to capture. So I was facing that. I knew that would happen because it had happened to me so many times before where I had that scene and I was not able to capture it. So in that couple of seconds that I had in making that decision there in the kitchen, I realized I had a third option. I had been practicing dictation for a couple of months and I thought, why not? I hadn't actually written fiction, but I had been practicing. And I thought, why not? Why not give it a try? So I plugged my earbuds into my phone, which I don't recommend using the earbuds now because, it rubs on your clothes. It can mess with the audio. But, you start with what you have, right? You start with what you have. And I was tired of letting technical blocks and other issues stop me from dictating. So I plugged my earbuds in, started my record app on my phone, and dropped my phone in my pocket and started doing the dishes. So I was determined not to leave dirty dishes in the sink, but I was also determined to capture that scene. So I went into it and like I said, all of the words were there. It was a perfect scene. And of course, perfect in my mind. It always comes out a bit differently, but it was all there. And I knew what I needed to capture. So I started writing the actual scene, not notes that would jog my memory later for me to type, but the actual full scene. So I finished that. I finished the dishes, headed out the door for my appointment, came back, had my words transcribed. I used the app to transcribe my words and check the word count. I had written nearly 1,500 words in that 20-minute slot. And I was absolutely blown away because not only had I written way faster than I could have typed it, I had actually captured that scene. And it would have absolutely been gone. If you've ever experienced that, you know what I'm talking about. Like that scene would have been gone by the time I got home, even if I'd had some notes to springboard off of, it just would not have come back to me. So not only did I write faster, not only did I get my dishes done, I was able to multitask a bit there with getting my writing in there, but I was able to capture that creativity. And that's something that dictation is just so powerful for. You can keep your creativity flowing anywhere, anytime. And that's huge for us as fiction authors. The last point I want to make with dictation being that key for building a sustainable fiction writing career is that you can really write without the burnout. I am hearing so many authors who are just hitting that point of burnout with the constant production and the hustle and the putting books out and all the marketing and the pressure to just keep writing more books and writing more books. And they're really hitting that point of burnout. And I really believe that dictation is a key to either avoiding the burnout or recovering from the burnout. And I've talked in previous episodes here on the podcast about knowing when to quit and what to quit. And in a recent episode, I encouraged you to not quit, not give up on your writing dream. And for me, dictation has been a key factor in that. in not hitting that burnout with fiction writing itself. We may feel the burn on some of the other aspects of our careers with marketing and contracts and all the other things. But if we can avoid burnout in our first love, right? Our first love is writing fiction. And if this tool of being able to dictate your fiction helps you avoid that burnout, is it worth you putting in the time and effort to learn this as a skill? And I'm going to say, based on my own experience and now with teaching hundreds of other fiction authors, that yes, it absolutely is worth it to train yourself to dictate your fiction. Because honestly, some of my burnout with writing fiction, it started whenever I was handwriting. I would just get tired. I would get tired of handwriting my stories. And I know a lot of authors handwrite their stories, handwrite their first drafts, and that's fantastic. That was just not sustainable for me. And typing was becoming that. I would be physically tired, and just the idea of having to hit those keys and put words on the page on some days, it was just too much. And if you've ever felt that, if you've ever felt that contributing to your burnout with writing fiction, then I just invite you to take a second or third look or fourth look at dictating your fiction. If you've heard about it multiple times, maybe you've tried it and you're like, that's just not for me, then I do encourage you to take another look at it, if for nothing else but to help you avoid that burnout with writing your fiction. And so, yes, dictation, it protects your body physically from sitting too much at your desk and causing that strain on your wrist from typing and other parts of your body from typing. It can help keep your creativity flowing anywhere, anytime, and it can help you avoid or recover from burnout with your fiction writing. And I've even seen it help authors fall in love with fiction writing all over again. Wrapping up here, I just want to emphasize that dictation is about longevity in your career. It's not just a hack for fast writers who want to throw out thousands of words a day. And if you're concerned that you're just not a fast writer and therefore dictation, you don't see the benefits, just remember that it really is a key for building that sustainable fiction writing career, and it can truly change your writing life. I know it has for me. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, maybe dictation could help me to write without burnout and without that strain on my body, I do want to invite you to join me inside the October Dictation Bootcamp. It's a live multi-day training. It kicks off October 14th, and I will walk you through your first steps in dictating your fiction in a way that removes that pressure from your brain so you can start making the transition from typing to speaking your fiction. We take it really slow and go step by step. You'll get 3 days of training and a whole community of support behind you in taking those first steps. So head on over to fictioncourses.com/dictation bootcamp to join the wait list for the bootcamp. The registration hasn't opened quite yet, but it's coming in just a couple of weeks, depending on when you're listening to this, but it is coming very soon. So you can go ahead and join that wait list so you'll be notified when the doors open for the Dictation Bootcamp. That is all for this week's episode, my friend. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week and do keep writing. Take care.